Marvel was an early pioneer in the comic book industry, beginning in the year 1939. In 1960, Marvel entered what was known as the Silver Age of comic books, creating arguably their most famous and marketable character, Spider-Man. Today, Marvel enjoys a very heavy presence in the Disney parks across the globe with merchandise, themed attractions, and character interactions, as the company was purchased by Disney in 2009. Marvel's films are box office heavy hitters and are just some of the reasons why this company's marketing campaign is so successful.
In order to have full grasp on Marvel's entertainment history, I focused my background on the history of comic books and how it impacted people in the entertainment industry. Comics were introduced in the 19th century as a form of lighthearted humor. During the Great Depression, comics boomed in popularity, introducing the most recognizable superhero in American culture, Superman, by DC Comics. DC would later be known to introduce characters such as Batman, Wonder Woman, and Flash. This period of superhero comic dominance became known as the Golden Age of Comics. In 1939, Marvel Comics, previously known as Timely Comics, revolutionized in the industry by introducing Captain America, who represented a relatable superhero who experienced vulnerability and personal conflict and real world problems of society. Like World War II, comics evolved to give Americans a much needed sense of escape and emotional uplift from their harsh realities. Superhero comics opened the door for comic genres to enter the market, such as horror, crime, western, teen, animal and jungle theme, and many more. Unfortunately, after the war, superhero comics' popularity declined, which can be attributed to shifting cultural interests of Americans and the implementation of the Comics Code Authority in 1959. The code's intent was to protect the youth from corruption by restricting the content of comics. This had a severe impact on the industry, and many comic books went out of business. In the 1960s, superhero comics made a return with the Spider Man, the Avengers, and the Fantastic Four. DC and Marvel shifted their content to current cultural moments, tackling topics of racism, drug abuse, and political corruption, and introducing minority heroes like Marvel's Black Panther and DC's Jamie Reyes of the Blue Beetle. The superheroes' diverse origins and narratives offered the consumer to better understand identity, culture, and power. Comic book superheroes are a representation of nationalism, which can be seen in DC's Superman or Marvel's Captain America, a search for societal structure in DC's Batman or Marvel's Iron Man, and struggles over femininity in DC's Wonder Woman. In the past 2 decades, comic books have taken over the big screen. DC and Marvel have produced blockbusters through their characters such as Spider Man, Iron Man, The Avengers, The Dark Knight, Deadpool, Captain America, and several others. Comic books penetrating the film industry has both diversified and expanded its following and looks to continue to do so for time to come by being an outlet for Americans. Now I'll dive into a deeper look into the history of Marvel Entertainment. Marvel was founded in 1939 by Martin Goodman. At the time, the company's name was Timely Publications and will have several name changes, sticking with Marvel. Marvel differentiated itself by creating a unique brand of heroism that's distinctly human and realistically flawed through Captain America. As mentioned earlier, Marvel changed the way comics were written to appeal to the readers. The storyline developed applied to cultural moments such as World War II in the Captain America series. Aside from this, Marvel also differentiated their comics through creating a visual aesthetic comic with both visual flash and detailed drawings. Post war, Marvel had trouble sustaining relevancy because its most popular character was rooted directly to one particular cultural moment. Readers were shifting their experiences and interests while Captain America was still living in World War II. In turn, Marvel experienced a slump in sales, which can be attributed to a couple of factors, such as Captain America's overarching brand strategy, the arrival of Comics Code Authority, and the inability to quickly remarket Captain America. In the 1960s, DC Comics were successful in regaining superhero popularity in the comic book industry. Marvel followed their lead and was revived through the introduction of comic Spider-Man and later the Fantastic Four. This time around, Marvel was able to capture a new market by releasing content and characters that related to teens and young adults. Marvel's characters had a relatability and heroics which appealed to the reader's vulnerabilities as well as hopes. For example, Marvel released a three-part Spider-Man story that depicted the dark world of drug abuse. The stories had a teen superhero and Spider-Man fighting crime and saving the world, but also delved into real issues of all ages. In addition to the previously mentioned comics, Marvel released other notable comics in this time, such as Thor, the Hulk, Iron Man, X-Men, Black Panther, and Daredevil. What was the most impressive about Marvel was not only its character development, but its creation of the Marvel Universe. All the Marvel characters share a reality in Marvel Universe. This ability to interlink all the characters would be the cornerstone of Marvel's future success. Moving forward, the company shifted toward creating a continuous storyline, which helped rise to be the second largest comic book publisher throughout the 1970s and 1980s. In 1989, Marvel underwent a change of ownership. The company was acquired by Ronald Perelman, who quickly made drastic changes to the company, beginning with the making of Marvel a publicly owned company. In Perelman's attempt to capitalize on Marvel, he implemented change through eliminating unprofitable lines of business, streamlined operations, acquired other comic book publishers, and put all his efforts into diversity outside the core comic book business. Unfortunately, Perelman's master plan did not pan out as he had planned. The falling of the company could be associated with Perelman's failed strategies, which included raising comic book prices, overproducing new titles and comics, acquiring hero distribution while making their sole distributor, and unsuccessfully creating diversified youth entertainment. While it can be said Perlman did succeed in diversifying Marvel's core comic book business, he did not succeed in helping Marvel's financial problems. Instead, the company fell deeper into debt and declared for bankruptcy. One thing special about Marvel is that regardless of their corporate mismanagement, the characters and storylines were still special enough to keep interest of what could be for the company. In 1998, Toy Biz will acquire Marvel Entertainment Group, renaming the company Marvel Enterprises. With a previously expanded core comic business, Marvel shifted its strategy to make the company rise back to the top better than ever. First, Marvel made sure to modernize their content library by licensing its characters for their use in media products as well as other consumer products. Second, the company understood how important the characters were and decided to treat them like an actual person by focusing on the long term value for the library characters. Lastly, Marvel made sure to gain control over their content. What they produce of their characters mattered, and they wanted to be the ones to determine the outcome. With the new strategy implemented, Marvel made sure to include the most important component, the Marvel Universe. The company applied the Marvel Universe concept throughout their divisions, such as comic books, licensing, publishing, and toys. With all this intact, Marvel was able to enter the 2000s with steam. In 2002 to 2006, Marvel licensed 12 of their characters to films, grossing $3.6 billion worldwide. In particular, in 2002, Spider-Man became a box office hit, setting a record, grossing $114.8 million on its opening weekend. Despite grossing high numbers, Marvel's prior licensing deals with other film studios would come back to bite them and diminish Marvel's profits as they would only receive a percentage. With the new structure and direction, Marvel decided to take a chance on themselves, which many considered a risk. In 2005, Marvel developed its own independent film studio, Marvel Films. By doing this, marked its transition from being the licensors to controlling producers of Marvel properties. Through this, Marvel moved on to produce the blockbuster smash in Iron Man and the Hulk in the summer of 2008. But the momentum didn't stop there. Marvel exhausted its efforts to gain control of their most iconic characters, such as Thor, Captain America, and many others, in addition to the previously mentioned Iron Man and the Hulk. Throughout its long and rocky journey, Marvel was able to exploit their intricately connected universe to maximize fan interest and reap the majority of commercial profits. For Marvel, their inception came over 70 years ago, but this is just the beginning of how big the company can become.
Marvel is a global company known around the world. Their mission statement is as reads. With a library of over 5,000 characters, Marvel Entertainment Inc. is one of the world's most prominent character-based entertainment companies. Marvel's operations are focused on utilizing its character franchises in licensing, entertainment, publishing, and toys. Areas of emphasis include feature films, DVD/home video, consumer products, video games, action figures, and role-playing toys, television, and promotions. Rooted in the creative success of over 60 years of comic book publishing, Marvel's strategy is to leverage its character franchises in a growing array of opportunities around the world. Marvel is also owned by Disney. Marvel's main competition is going to be DC Comics. DC Comics is a company very much like Marvel who has been around for almost decades. Their fans are always in constant debate over who's created the better comics, movies, TV shows, characters, etc. DC stakes their claim over a repertoire of heroes such as Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, who are all considered to be part of the Justice League. On the other hand, Marvel's Avengers consist of heroes such as Spider-Man, Iron Man, Captain America, and the Hulk. DC heroes are typically seen as mythical beings who work as paragons of humanity in fictional cities such as Gotham and Metropolis. Marvel's characters are more relatable, though, and their powers are worked into the plot to be more of a curse than a blessing. Just like in Spider-Man, Peter Parker, is bitten by a radioactive spider, and then, for example, the Hulk, he has a raging temper that transforms him into somewhat of a monster, and both of these kind of, you could say, burdens are what makes them a superhero. They use their curse scenes kind of as a blessing in real-life cities such as New York and Chicago. The movies and comics that DC creates tend to have an overall moody and gritty tone to them. Take, for example, Batman. Whereas Marvel's lean more towards humor, a great example of this is going to be 2016's Deadpool. And also Iron Man's pretty funny too. When you compare the two companies by the numbers, primarily in the box office sales, Marvel wins by a landslide. According to research, movies based on Marvel characters have brought in 45% more revenue than DC movies. However, you do have to look at how many movies have been made in however amount of years. So if you stop to look at the last 15 years, you're going to find that there have been Marvel properties in at least 28 of the films that have been made. However, there are only 23 films with DC properties in them within the last 35 years. This is just one of the substantial differences when comparing the two of them. Marvel's Avengers alone brought in $620 million, which is the highest grossing superhero movie of all time, and the 4 Spider-Man movies combined brought in a total of over $1 billion. This is not to say, however, that DC hasn't had its fair share of contenders. Batman: The Dark Knight brought in $533 million and is often considered by critics as one of the best movies ever made. Another component to consider is that Marvel is constantly picking new heroes from their comics to make movies on, whether it's a success or a flop, such as 2016's Deadpool, which was obviously a success, whereas their movie Ant-Man wasn't as much of a success. DC tends to focus more on a few big heroes like Superman and Batman and constantly makes new movies based upon those characters. In today's society, it is so important for companies to utilize integrated social marketing campaigns, meaning that they utilize formats such as Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram in order to promote their new upcoming show or movie or whatever it may be. When Marvel's Avengers Age of Ultron came out, Marvel used an integrated social marketing campaign. Marvel linked their ABC TV show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. directly to the upcoming Avengers movie by including background story of the Avengers into the plot of the television show. That way, each week fans would be able to tune in to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and pick up bits and pieces of the puzzle of the Avengers, making it not only an exciting fan experience, but also boosting ratings for both the television show and the movie at the same time. Marvel posted an interactive tweet that also raised hype for the Avengers that allowed fans to live stream the red carpet world premiere in Hollywood straight to their at-home devices. Following this tweet was another tweet which unleashed major exclusive content to fans with a clip of the movie before the premiere date. Providing fans with exclusive supplementary content like live streams and unseen movie clips keep fans wanting more and helps to build anticipation for the actual release. Staying with the Twitter theme, Marvel also employed the power of their other Twitter handles such as @IronMan, @ThorMovies, @Captain America, and @Hulk. By doing this, Marvel ensured that their fans, no matter what handles they were following, will be exposed to the content. From these handles, they would post, teaser trailers and information like that, which also basically just ties in the whole brand theme as well. Continuing on with the idea of the integrated social marketing campaign, Marvel also employed one for Captain America: Civil War. In the movie, the Avengers are faced with the decision to stand either with Iron Man or with Captain America. Marvel went to Twitter to ask fans which side they stood on and prompted them to use the hashtags Team Cap or hashtag Team Iron Man. The inherent accessibility, real-time relevance, and global forum for conversation made Twitter the perfect partner for this campaign. It not only allowed Captain America: Civil War fans to connect with their heroes from the film, but enabled others to engage in conversations across the Marvel Universe and beyond, developing into a cultural moment that transcended the film itself. The campaign encouraged fans to make a statement about themselves, hashtag Team Cap or hashtag Team Iron Man, while leveraging retweet and trending hashtag functionalities to expand awareness beyond Disney and Marvel's core fans, overcoming the challenge of appealing exclusively to the brand's existing Twitter following. Like, for example, for me, I'm not the biggest Marvel fan, but when this was going on, I did see people hashtagging Team Cap or hashtagging Team Iron Man, and it did force me to do a little bit of investigation myself to see kind of what that was all about and why people were hashtagging that. That's a prime example of how social media marketing campaigns get, people who are typically not exposed to that medium to kind of come over and see what it's all about and kind of, in this case, learn about, the plot of the upcoming movie. Continuing on with Captain America's Civil War, Marvel also employed a little bit more of a traditional marketing approach when the movie was coming out. So for Captain America Civil War, Marvel decided to do $200 million in brand partnerships. In May of 2016, Marvel partnered with Coca-Cola, Google, Samsung, Wrigley, and Harley-Davidson, Audi, Synchrony Financial, Pizza Hut, Kellogg's, Pop Secret, Mouser Electronics, and Vivio. As a part of their tie-in campaign, Audi premiered a commercial directed by Civil War Helmers Joe and Anthony Russo that features unreleased scenes from the movie. Harley-Davidson produced customized motorcycles that were used in production and were later present on the blue and red carpet of the film's world premiere in Los Angeles. Pizza Hut debuted collectible boxes that allow people to share their allegiance to either Captain America or Iron Man with their pizza orders, while cereal and potato chip lovers can look for the exclusive VR experience that will accompany their purchase of participating Kellogg's, Pringles, and Keebler products. Limited edition Pop Secret popcorn bags featured printed comic panels with Avengers characters. A campaign like this is very important, just overall to accompany their kind of social marketing campaigns, just because, the world's not all technology. There are still families that go out, do their grocery shopping, order pizzas, things like that. So it was very, very smart of Marvel to kind of stake their claim over, certain advertisers like that in order to kind of get the message out about the movie. The most important campaign that Marvel has ever undertook definitely has to be their movies. So Marvel's string of huge international movie hits over the past 9 years may seem unsurprising, but it wasn't always obvious that the studio would become such a juggernaut. In 2017, Marvel notched its 12th B in worldwide box office grosses, but less than a decade ago, the matter of its successes or failure was a big question mark. Strange as it may seem now, when Marvel raised its 10-picture, $500 million film production fund in 2015 in order to take its filmmaking destiny into its own hands, it was far from certain that the new venture would succeed. Marvel was headed toward bankruptcy, and they really had no other option. They needed some sort of a marketing campaign in order to bring them out of the hole. So they decided to create their own production company in order to produce their own movies. Looking at their large repertoire of successes since 2005, it is quite certain to say that Marvel did turn their brand name around for the better. Their movies are one of the main reasons why they are known so globally and why they have become such a household name.
In 1940, Marvel was still a fledgling operation, delivering incredible and unique stories accompanied by illustrations that were marketed towards young boys. Captain America is known as the first Avenger and was famously drawn punching Hitler on the cover of one of his first comics. Young boys who grew up in the 60s and 70s read Marvel's Silver Age comic books, which featured Spider-Man, among many other notable heroes. These young boys are currently in their 40s and 50s and are the most likely group to collect rare or mint-condition comic books from their youth. Marvel considers this particular age group to be its most highly targeted audience, as they are willing to pay extremely high amounts of money to grow their collections. Marvel has recently addressed the real lack of women or people of color in their comics and was able to reimagine several of their most popular white male characters. Thor was reimagined as a woman, and Iron Man was reimagined as a young African-American girl. For the first time in a long time, women are being marketed to by Marvel and are now able to see themselves in the heroes being presented to them. This makes women an official target audience. Since it was purchased by the Walt Disney Company in 2009, Marvel has been able to target their marketing towards families who visit the Disney parks around the world. Families at Disney parks can meet Avengers characters, can purchase Marvel-themed merchandise, and can ride Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, which is themed to Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy film franchise.
Okay, so let's look at how the Captain America Civil War advertising campaign performed. You heard mentioned earlier the promotional campaign that went on with a number of brand tie-ins with the movie. Pizza Hut, Pop Secret, Kellogg's, Google, Samsung, Coca-Cola, Harley Davidson. All of these brands wanted to have their products either in the movie or sell basically promotional product tie-ins. This generated over $200 million in revenue, which was used to promote the film globally. In addition, the hashtag Team Cap, Team Iron Man social media campaign on Twitter was also very successful. It drove a lot of interaction to social media. There were some videos created by the marketing team where actors from the film were actually able to respond to their Twitter followers being hashtagged as either Team Iron Man or Team Cap. This won the Shorty Award, which won in the Best Social Media Marketing video category. So it was a very well received campaign. Okay, here is a different kind of campaign. This is the work of the Marvel Custom Solutions Agency. This is an in-house advertising agency that Marvel employs to actually align their brand with corporate partners, and they will actually publish kind of one-off comic books that promote these affiliated brands. They've partnered with Adobe, Kimberly Clark, M&M's. You can see some of their previous work here, and this is a really good promotion for the characters and for the company. It allows them to basically get the characters out in front of the public, and it's basically a fully integrated marketing campaign for these companies that want to partner with Marvel. The Western Union partnership, which you can see on this slide, actually won their Gold Lion Award for digital and social integration. So Marvel's Heroes Come in All Sizes campaign was only recently launched in February of 2017. It is a kind of a catch-all campaign for all kinds of different consumer products, books, toys, video games, uh, kids' clothing. It targets really all various age ranges and demographics. The message of the Heroes Come in All Sizes is something for everyone. So all of the products that you see here were actually launched as a part of this campaign, and it runs the gamut from the typical, young boys toys, teenage demographic with video games, uh, but most importantly, reaches out to younger fans or new fans with things like children's books. And in the case of the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, this is actually their first venture into the young adult uh, book market. And this allows them to reach out to a demographic that maybe doesn't normally read comic books. So it's a nice way for them to sort of expand the reach of the familiarity of their characters. Okay, so clearly Marvel as a company and as a brand is doing very well. Um, but if we could change something, what would we change? Um, where is the company struggling? Currently, unfortunately, it's sad to say that the comic book industry is seeing some slumping sales right now. And a lot of these problems are due to Marvel's own creation. They require a distributor, a company called Diamond. It's a very antiquated distribution model. This company has a monopoly um, on comic book distributions, both for Marvel and their competitors, DC and Image Comics. And the problem is that the sales of the books cannot be known until word of mouth builds, but unfortunately, they don't get that instant feedback. So a lot of times, very promising series get canceled before they can even pick up steam or get word of mouth with the public. There are a lot of big crossover type events that require collectors to purchase upwards of 40 or 50 comics just to follow a single storyline. This is extremely expensive for one thing, and for another thing, it alienates new readers who maybe just want to pick up a book off the shelf and read it if they haven't read a comic book in a long time. So there's a lot of issues with the comic book industry in general, um, and it may not seem like a big deal because the margins are so thin on these comics and they're making a lot of money on the characters in the movies. But at the end of the day, uh, if Marvel is basically a content farm, they're basically coming up with new IP, and when the public gets tired of Iron Man and Captain America, who will be the next wave of superheroes uh, that shows up on the in the movies? Um, until they can get their sales problems sorted out, um, it will be difficult to say. Lastly, there's another problem that kind of plagues Marvel and has been kind of uh, an advertising or marketing misstep, and that is in dealing with some of these legacy deals that were made prior to Disney purchasing the company. The movie rights for the X-Men and the Fantastic Four are still currently held by 20th Century Fox. So they will continue to make movies based on those Marvel characters, which makes them unavailable for Marvel Studios to create their own movies. Um, it's unfortunate, but in a lot of the marketing and merchandising, uh, Marvel will intentionally omit these characters that they don't have the movie rights to because they don't want to help these other studios continue to make money with their movie properties. And it's a little short sighted and it leaves some money on the table. Uh, Also, the Marvel characters cannot be used in Disney's East Coast theme parks as part of another legacy deal that they made with Universal to basically keep the company afloat in the 90s. They basically have to abide uh, by that agreement that Universal holds the rights to have Marvel characters in their park in Florida, which is called Islands of Adventure in Orlando. And unfortunately, uh, all of the Marvel characters that have been appearing in Disneyland and added attractions in Disneyland won't ever make their way over to Florida. So that's a difficult problem. It's very hard to resolve these because these are basically old contracts that have been around for now 15 to 20 years. Um, but I am hopeful that possibly they may be able to reach an agreement with Fox or Universal, um, much in the way they did with Sony, which allowed Spider-Man to appear in Captain America: Civil War, and also for Marvel and Sony to co-produce Spider-Man: Homecoming.